Welcome to Flight Path, the weekly podcast for the Tern community, where we share what's new, what's next, and what's coming to the platform you're helping us build. Kicking off season 2, we're focusing on group travel, a big theme this quarter. But that's just one part of our journey. We're also rolling out features for agencies, tackling your most requested updates, and yes, shipping product updates every single week. So join Tern's R&D leadership team, Molly, our head of product, David, Tern CEO and co-founder, and Brad, head of design, as well as an occasional special guest, as we bring you into the loop on everything happening at Tern. We're proud to be the only travel technology platform committed to weekly releases, and we couldn't do it without this incredible, engaged community. This podcast is for you, to keep you informed, inspired, and a part of the process. So if you're ready to stay connected with the latest from Tern, hit subscribe and join us every Friday on Flight Path. Let's keep building Tern together. Welcome back, everybody, to the Flight Path podcast, the final episode of 2024, which is pretty surreal. It doesn't feel like that long ago that we started this podcast, I think in July, and now we're half a year into it, talking about the last episode of the year. We have a really special episode for you. Again, we're going to take a little bit of a break from kind of our traditional format. We've got some special guests with Andrew and Spencer joining. We're going to talk a lot about this kind of incredible full team offsite that we had last week. And should be a lot of fun. We're going to give you kind of a peek behind the curtain of a hackathon that we did, which is a really fun event. But before we jump into that, I have to do a little bit of shout out. We told this story on the podcast. But when we were at Cruise World in, I think it was November in Fort Lauderdale, Brooklyn and I were kind of walking through the main event, like the kind of general session, if you will. We were like a little late trying to find a seat. And this gentleman like kind of jogs up to us and is like, oh my gosh, like, do you work with Tern? We're talking about this. And recapped the episode where Brad was in this very room and is like mid talking or something, and all of a sudden just like goes full on dark, and we're like, did we lose Brad? Like, we don't know what to do. And lights come back on. Brad's like, yeah, like my parents just turned off. He's like visiting family. Parents just turned off the lights, and Molly makes the joke. She's like, Mom, I'm podcasting. And so at Cruise World, it's like, I've been laughing about that for weeks. Like, you guys need to have shirts made. And so at our offsite last week, Katie did a great job of giving us the Mom on podcasting. I'm going to do my little modeling. We've got Tern in the back. And so these are now the team shirts. And
we're sending him in particular a shirt, right? We're going to track him down somehow.
I was going to say, I'm trying to remember the details. So you said to listen to the podcast. So if that was you that came to us at Cruise World, we have a shirt for you. So I need you to just shoot me an email, david@tern.travel, and be like, I'm the guy. Here, give me your address, and we will send you a shirt to thank you for this inspiration. We got these shortly after Brad's like, I really don't like being the center of attention. And we're like, ooh, it's going to be awkward. So here we are. But we are, we've got a good show. We're going to talk about the hackathon. I'm going to hand it over to Molly to kind of share just some context on what a hackathon is. And then we'll have Andrew and Spencer do kind of a live demo of something they built in just a couple hours. So Molly, take it away.
Yeah, well, and for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, I mean, David, did you say who you were?
Oh, that's a good point. So we've got the whole big group here, but I'm David, CEO and one of the co-founders. It is in the video, so every time I watch the intro video, and then I'm like, do I just say it again? So I'm David, co-founder and CEO, joined by Molly, head of product, and Brad, head of design, and we've got some special guests on our engineering team, Spencer and Andrew today. And also, before I get called out for the other thing I forgot to say, please like and subscribe, add a comment if you're listening. Brad's probably DMing me behind the scenes, being like, don't forget to tell him to subscribe. So got to get those stats up.
Okay, thank you. Now I feel like I can move forward now that we've done the intros. So hackathons are really fun. It's basically a time for engineering to build whatever they want, and it's not meant to be building full features that are ready to go and ship to our customers. It's really like, what are areas we want to explore and spend more time investigating from a technology standpoint, or that we know we want to build eventually, but it might need more exploration or creative, whatever. Or if they're just things that engineers are like, I never have time to do this and I really want to try this out, it's a great space for that too. So we had some amazing features that we'll talk about. that were built. I'm being tapped here to just make sure to remind people that these are not things that we're going to be planning to ship anytime soon. It's really like the code that's being built and stuff is not what we would call like production ready, up to the standards that we normally have. It's a hackathon for a reason, the naming. So it'll be really fun to share, but we don't want to like also get customer hopes up. I think there are ways that it can help fast track some roadmap items. Like last year, the Traveler mobile app came out of the hackathon, but it still required a few weeks to get that ready post hackathon. So don't expect any of these to go live, but all things that are on our minds that we plan to innovate around this year.
Next year, 2025.
Oh my gosh. Well, you also said that the offsite was last week, but it was actually this week, David.
Wow. Literally yesterday.
Yeah, that was literally yesterday.
Wasting time on this podcast is like
we don't know what's going on. It's been a good week, but yeah, I forgot what week was. So that's a good point. Basically, yeah, you don't want these things to ship, but they are awesome proofs of concept and a lot of themes coming in 2025. And one of those really cool things that Spencer and Andrew kind of helped hack on for 6 to 8 hours on Wednesday was this kind of intelligent reconciliation model. So Spencer, I think you're going to talk a little bit about kind of the AI side and kind of introduce yourself and then hand it over to Andrew for the demo. So Spencer, take it away.
Yeah. So I've been on the team for 1.5 years now, I think at this point. And as you guys were just saying, it's kind of crazy to say that because it feels like it was a few months ago. And the amount that we've built in that time is a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm on the engineering team, and I've previously worked with Brad and David and Molly at Handshake. Met Brad and David in college, so have probably almost like 10 years of, I guess, experience working together, which also is kind of scary to say because it also feels like it's been a year we've been working together.
We're getting old.
It's been fun just being able to work on all these different kind of projects and seeing kind of the evolution of things we've been able to work on. But yeah, Andrew and I were able to work together on some supplier statement parsing is what we're calling it. I think we built supplier statements a couple months ago for agencies so that they could upload their they can't actually upload their supplier statements. They have to manually enter all of the data from the supplier statement and then reconcile those against the bookings they have in the system. And if the bookings don't exist, they need to then create unclaimed bookings and manage that. So I think the core software there works well, but it's a very manual and kind of like tedious process and very time consuming. And it's also a very ambiguous problem. If there was a single structured CSV input, we could build a single code path that handles that CSV. But as soon as you get multiple CSV formats, or now you talk about a PDF format, or maybe you don't even have a PDF and it's actually images, and all of those images are in different formats. Now you kind of have this ambiguity problem of, do we write hundreds of different software code paths that handle all of these different things, and then we get a new support request or somebody changes their format? So it can lead to a lot of really complex code that doesn't really work. So how can we streamline that process that exists today, but without having to take on the cost of very complex or a large amount of software? And I think that's how I think about AI, or this kind of current wave of AI with large language models, and what they're able to do is taking an ambiguous input and turning it into something structured or meaningful. And it's not actually really eliminating the job. You still will need to upload the supplier statement, but I think it eliminates 90% of the tedious kind of annoying parts of it. So that's kind of the context of why I think in this case, AI is the right tool for the right job. I do think there's a lot of hype around AI, and I think sometimes people maybe reach for AI just to say they're using AI, but I think it's important to think about the problem and use the right tool for the right job. So we've been using some AI parsing for itinerary parsing, and I think we've seen some pretty promising results with that. We know there's tons of improvements we could make there, and kind of balancing that with everything else we have to do. But a pretty cool improvement that OpenAI recently released in some of their models and now is available in the API is the ability to upload images and kind of ask questions about the image or use that as context. And I think this kind of existed previously with some AI models like optical character recognition or OCR. So that's kind of building on that idea, but we can kind of use the same ideas we've used for itinerary parsing and coupling that. So this actually works with only images or like raw images. So you could literally just take a screenshot of a CSV, a screenshot of a PDF, upload it, and we should be able to parse out all of the statement information. So you don't even have to create the statement. We should be able to parse out all of the line items, including like client name, booking name, commission, confirmation number, maybe a few more attributes. And then we can actually turn those into unclaimed bookings. So you don't have to do any of the manual data entry. And then we can match those against the data that's already in the system. So if it truly is an unclaimed booking, it already exists as an unclaimed booking. And if there's an exact match to a booking, you can immediately reconcile that. So I think this will turn it from thousands of keystrokes into maybe dozens of mouse clicks. So I think this is kind of exciting to see how much faster and streamlined this can be. And I think it's cool to see what we could potentially use this for to further improve itinerary parsing or some of the activity parsing stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff here, but like Molly was saying, we took a lot of shortcuts. There's a lot of rough edges. We used one kind of sample and there's hundreds of samples. So there's a long way to actually like turn this into production, but I think Andrew's going to show what we were able to put together.
Are you going to defend yourself, David, before you?
I was going to say, I feel like I do have to just acknowledge that was a little bit of a drive-by there. Like, this is one of the times where AI is the right tool for the right job. And I couldn't help, Spencer, but feel a little bit like that's David's using AI, even using a hammer when a screwdriver is the right tool, or I don't know what the saying is, but everything looks like a hammer when you have a nail. Is that the saying? So everything looks like exactly. AI when that's all you know.
For the record, for people tuning in, like, David and AI is like a company-wide joke. He's like always like AI. We have to use AI, and so it's always good to get some digs in against him.
Yeah, some subtle digs too. It's like just like very, very nuanced there, but don't think it went unnoticed.
Yeah, I do think there is some interesting nuances of two. I think shortcomings of AI is it's not free. There is some set cost. So there's like this concept of tokens, and images actually can accumulate a larger number of tokens. So that's something we'll have to take into consideration is how does this scale cost wise? I think another aspect of it is AI is non-deterministic, and anything non-deterministic in code means you have infinite edge cases, because if it's non-deterministic, you can't plan for it. So I think those are two shortcomings. So there's a little bit of danger maybe of always using the hammer. So that's kind of why sometimes the screwdrivers may be less dangerous.
Fair enough.
I think just listening to Spencer talk, people are probably starting to understand why we can build so much. Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Pretty smart dude.
This is it. This is why we're like, let's end the year with a bang here. I mean, like, this is the minds behind the code. And Andrew, you've got an incredible demo, but also like an incredible story. We were joking. One of the things we did at the offsite is we had a bunch of users in Detroit come together, and we were kind of joking that Andrew's the unicorn, and that I think he's probably the only Ruby on Rails engineer that he's an incredible talent part of the team, and also is a travel advisor. So Andrew, tell the folks your story, and then excited for the demo.
Yeah, so I actually know one more now. So there is an old friend, although I think he has left coding to just be in the travel space. But I do know one other Rails engineer that's a travel advisor. So I became a travel advisor in February of 2020. I was already doing a lot of trip planning for our family and kind of extended family, and wanted to kind of continue that. I really enjoyed doing it, and it's easier to do it when other people are footing the bill. So being able to plan the dream trips for other people, helps fill that itch in between planning my own. So I knew Brian from the area. We kind of live on opposite sides of Green Bay, both about an hour apart from the city. But so we met up a number of times at events, like in town. He had, I think, put out on LinkedIn fairly early in the Tern history, hey, I'm looking for people I know in the travel space. So I got to talk with Brian and David quite a bit. There was a running joke that I was constantly blowing up Brian's Slack in another community that we shared together with my early bug reports and feedback and things. But then, yeah, a couple of months ago, had the opportunity to join the team as an engineer, and definitely been loving it. Loving the feedback, loving being able to share what I know about the industry with everybody, and yeah, getting to know everybody better.
Love
And
it.
as Andrew's pulling up the demo, like this is the team that won the hackathon, by the way. So like they, by kind of a landslide, like we voted as a company, and they kind of blew everyone away. So
What you could call a pretty big deal is
Yeah.
what we're saying here.
I think there were like 6 teams. So
All right, let's jump into the demo.
Awesome. Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into a demo. So we've already talked about definitely, early rough, but we've got a couple of sample statements that we are.
And Andrews, maybe just like to help narrate too, as they're kind of clicking through this, like not everybody who's watching this will be familiar with the kind of agency model, right? So Spencer described a little bit of this, but do you want to just kind of talk through maybe as you go, like for people that don't know what this workflow looks like today, like what is this, and then what existed before, and what's the hackathon?
Sure. Yep. So supplier statements are intended to be a single entry kind of in this table you're seeing now for each time a supplier pays the agency. So the supplier sends the agency a check, a wire transfer, whatever that flow looks like for that supplier. The staff at the agency then have to go in and match up. There might be 9 things paid on the statement. They have to match up each one with a booking in the system so that the agent who made the booking gets paid. So I just did an import, and we'll get to see kind of we can see the manual flow, but then also see how we have run through the flow. So this is the one that I just imported. Normally when the way it works today, you would come in here and you would have just this add a booking screen that is pulling in all of the kind of bookings that are sitting in the system waiting to be paid. You got the plus button that lets you select it. Maybe. Yeah, there you go. That brings up the interface to say, this is the amount that I received, the date. It's eligible for payout on this date. So we can say, it's actually going to get paid out in January when this accrues sales. We can do the split. We can do all of those. And it then adds it to your reconciled bookings. We've got tracking on numbers and everything to make sure that everything is reconciled properly. So what we've added is these 10, I believe, were all imported from the image. Let me grab that so you can see it. I can't share that. So imported an image that had 10 bookings modeled off of a Disney statement. And we can actually go in and see, okay, for this booking, it was $654. Here's the confirmation number. Depending on what information is there, we can fill in some of this other as well. But then we're actually going to show the best matches that we can. So in this case, we actually have an exact match. The supplier matches, the confirmation number matches, the expected commission matches. So I can go ahead and click on this exact match. And it is going to take it out of unclaimed bookings. It's going to bring it into this interface. And that now is showing up in my reconciled and removed from my unclaimed. So if agents are entering all the data properly, the supplier is bringing it back in a good form. It's 2 or 3 clicks per booking to go in and turn them into real reconciled bookings that can then be paid. So the thought was, until we're really confident in it, we don't want to do anything completely automatically. We want to keep it in the control of humans. But this flow should make it so that, assuming the data is right, it's super quick to spot check it, process through it without a ton of manual work.
And you can see why this team won the hackathon. I mean, it's like so incredible. And Andrew, could you just go back and click the add statement again? Because I think this is so easy to miss. So historically, you had to like type in every single one of these fields. And if you're listening, it's like statement name, type, ACH, total amount. Then you went to another kind of experience that you had to enter in each and every one of the line items, and you're kind of manually matching it. And so what this allows now is like you can actually upload this image, and it will automatically bring in all that kind of historically unstructured data for you. It's looking at the matches. So this is like pretty exciting. And again, like, is it this exact version that gets shipped? Maybe not, but like this idea of how do you leverage kind of AI and the data to make this kind of matching and structure problem way faster for agencies is definitely something that we want to try and solve for in 2025. And you'll see a lot of, I think, really cool innovations continuing to happen here. And so, you can see this, I think you just did it again, uploading that and just bringing that in. It's really, really cool to see.
Yep. So this is a different supplier, a completely different document format. And again, we were able to pull in client name. We've got confirmation number, and matching on each of those as well.
So cool.
Amazing. And one more thing, like, I think to highlight just the power of these hackathons, when we watched this, like the demo of this, we started to just talk as a team about how the sooner we can actually start to get in real examples from agency owners and admins, the more we can start to hone the model that we're using to parse out these statements. So we're going to be huddling a little bit later today to see, like, is there something that we could get into beta sooner versus later without compromising our core roadmap, just to start to get some of those real examples, see where things break, and again, hone that model. Because one of the biggest aspects about getting AI right is making sure that we're training it and improving the prompts and everything. So it's just so cool because we never would have really considered that if the hackathon hadn't happened. But immediately everyone's wheels started turning of like, ooh, how can we get something live sooner versus later? So no promises, but more to come hopefully soon there.
This was so cool. Spencer, Andrew, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. I was thinking, I was like, maybe we should make this like a tradition that like the winners of the hackathon come on Flight Path as like, I was thinking it'd be like a prize, but it may be the opposite. It may be like I don't know. But we're glad you both joined.
Terrible hackathons just so they don't have to fly again.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to be on the podcast, but always fun like having people on, especially on the engineering side, who are like building this every day. So huge kudos to the entire engineering team. And we're going to talk about a couple of the other hackathon projects, but you both are welcome to jump off if you've got other things you want to do. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. So fun.
We talk about Spencer a lot on here because he's the person, like, if for our loyal listeners, whenever Brad's like highlighting the quick design wins that he pairs with an engineer on to kind of slot in, that's Spencer. So you're kind of meeting the man behind some of these stories.
Yeah. We always joke, like, we need to just put Spencer on a plane, because that's when some of those like design updates just happen, or like, these kind of other neat wins. All right, Brad, I'm going to throw it over to you to talk about one of the other hackathon projects, which is some editor explorations.
Yeah. And I think this shouldn't be a surprise for most folks who listen to this. There's a canny request, our feedback tool. One of the top voted things is like, paraphrasing, "Dear God, please replace the editor in Tern." But the basic idea is like, for many folks, like, a lot of your time is curating content to make sure your clients have the information they need, that it's easy to read and understand. And like, today, using our editor for many is like quite challenging because they're not used to the way that it works. There's some quirks, just like in some of the functionality, and then there's other things where it's just not very discoverable. All of the UI is hidden unless you like actually go find kind of a hidden menu to change something, or like highlight a piece of text and then have your information. And we know that there's a lot of improvements to be made there. And we had a chance to try out a different editor during the course of the hackathon. And so we basically, our focus was trying to just like see what else is out there, what we could explore, so that when we actually pick up this project later in the year, we'd be able to actually like have a better sense instead of having to start completely from scratch. So during the hackathon, we were able to show proof of concept of a different editor. Wish I even had like a screenshot to share. But some highlights are that we're able to actually have a toolbar that's always visible, so that you don't like have to go find where the controls are. It's just always there for you if you need to make something bold, add some bullets, things like that. We also explored some much more complex functionality, like being able to have types of content within other content. So as an example, the table today in the editor in Tern, you can't put like bullets or headings within the table. And there's some technical details about why that is and how the data is structured. But we're able to actually show a proof of concept of how we could do that with a different editor. Also showed, like, again, confirming that we could still embed things like looms or YouTube videos, images, details like that. So lots of really cool progress to see, like, just how might this work. But again, similar to other projects, like this will probably be a multi-week project on the roadmap, both to build a fully functional replacement and then also to make sure that we're supporting that transition from the current structure of content, the current editing experience, to the new editor. Yeah, that's kind of the quick summary of that project.
And shout outs, Brad was kind of working on some of the design. Zach and Kayla were the engineers on that team. Kayla was trying to get a demo that we could kind of put together. It was a little last minute when we asked the team if anyone wanted to put this together. So we don't have that to show, but it is really cool to think about what an editor upgrade could look like. And a lot of complexity in figuring out how do you take one way of storing text data and completely rethink that while not disrupting all of the existing text data that's in the app. So like that'll be fun to figure out. But yeah, it's like pretty cool to have. The part that the team talked about that stuck out to me was like they're exploring an editor that gives us complete control. And the benefit of that is like, we can do anything, right? People have like complained about the editor, like we can figure it out. Whereas today we're a bit more constrained. The part that scared me about that was means like we have to build everything. Like you want to be able to like underline text, like we got to build that, right? And so it's kind of like that trade-off of like how do we value that kind of autonomy in managing the editor. Maybe moving on, Molly, you were the team lead for another hackathon project. Do you want to talk about the client portal, client account experience?
Yes, absolutely. So this is another one we get a lot of feedback around today where people don't want their clients to have to kind of re-enter data via forms over and over. Maybe it's a client that you've worked with before. Maybe you need some additional information from them. Maybe you just need them to validate that the information that you have on them is correct, and maybe agree to terms and conditions and sign with an e-signature before you actually officially book anything. And today you're kind of doing that via forms, and they're having to re-enter some of this data. And so we explored a way of clients actually just being able to keep all of their information up to date in their Tern account, which is really exciting. And you would still be able to prompt them to add, maybe missing data, like if you have certain requirements that they haven't added yet, or if you need them to validate that the existing stuff that they've entered is correct, and again, do the e-signature or agree to any terms. So the idea would be that you could still send over like a contact information form, but it would pull from their account settings and pre-fill those fields for you to then review. And good examples of this are like, make sure your passport is correct and your birth date, and just like other key pieces of information you may need to actually make their bookings. And then the dream world is you can initiate these things from the trip and then have their responses logged and stored right on that forms hub within the trip as well. So we actually got like most of that end-to-end working. Again, it was really funny. It was like some of the things we wanted to improve. We literally had to like strip out all the security protocols that we have in place just to like wire something up to demo for the hackathon. So again, you do not want this version to ship, and we will not.
We will not ship it.
But just like a good, fun proof of concept to show that the end to end could be a pretty magical client experience. And this is one that is not as big as the text editor rip and replace. And very high on our list for something that we want to solve next year. So not in the next few months of next year, but certainly something we're exploring for the first half of next year.
Yeah, the security.
And that was... Okay.
field too. Like I had a support ticket yesterday where someone wrote in being like, oh, can I just like send my clients to a link to their form so they can edit their details? Like it'll just pre-fill everything, right? And it's like, actually, no, because like think about that. You just like send an open link out into the internet that's like, here's all your passport information. Can you just make sure it's correct? Like really want to make sure there's a like, we know it's you, and then you can tweak those things. Similar to like if you're booking a flight online, right? It's like you have your profile that can like help you pre-fill out the details. But that's not just there if you go to like edit your flight details and it's like, oh, I have a link. Oh yeah, that's clearly Brad. Let me just expose all of his secure
Here's your
information.
social security number. No,
Yeah.
I know we don't track those, but yeah.
Yeah. It is so true. But I think that's where, like, again, moving to this more kind of a client portal, kind of a client account type model, right? We have the account today and we use it mostly on the security side of things, but being able to move that into like, how do you actually create some more magical experiences around that, I think is going to be really cool.
And as many of you know, we also are very much streamlining the process for clients to create the account. So like this won't be the full, you know, go to another tab,
process.
enter your first name, last name, you know, password, like all that stuff, but we still will validate their identity before we pre-fill that information.
So that was, in addition to Molly, James, Matt, and Rickard that were kind of working on all of that. And then the last project Matthias and Brian were working on was starting to explore some new technologies for mobile experiences, right? And like there's this kind of tech called Hotwire, I think it is, which is like closer or uses Ruby on Rails. And so they were starting to say like, well, with this new technology, could you start to build a mobile app that doesn't require us rewriting every feature that we build, right? And this is one of the reasons people ask us a lot, like we want a travel advisor app, which we know is important and hopefully is something that we'll be able to tackle at some point in the not too distant future. But the challenge with that is like, if you're building a native app, a lot of times you have to like rewrite every single one of these features. And so you're actually kind of doubling it. If you think about how much functionality and feature set exists on the advisor side, like the traveler side is pretty well contained. Like you need to look at an itinerary, interact with it, like do these things. But for a travel advisor, I mean, there's massive amounts of functionality and rebuilding that is a huge undertaking. So Brian and Matthias were kind of exploring like, are some of these new technologies that are coming out closer to our tech stack pathways to do that in a lighter weight way that's easier to maintain and keep updated. So I think some pretty cool learnings that came out of that. Again, not sure we're ready to commit to anything, but like pretty cool little demo we saw there. And then I also have to give a shout out on the support side. So we did a hackathon as well, which was fun. The support team, particularly Jade, Ellen, and Brooklyn, spent a ton of time updating help articles. Many of you know that we have this tool called Finn, which is kind of our AI bot. We're really excited about making that smarter. Obviously, we're all in on kind of human support and relationships in this industry, but we're going on holidays, right? People are out next week, right? Which means like if it was just a human that you were waiting for and you had a question about how Tern works or something like this, like you have to, like, it may be days before you hear back from us. Whereas these AI agents can actually start to respond 24/7, 365. They don't take vacation, but they don't know if they don't have the right information, they can't give you good information, right? And so this was a massive undertaking to update over 130 articles that, like, some of which were 2 years old. You think about how the product has evolved in 2 years, it's crazy. So props to the kind of team for getting through those. And then we started experimenting with ways that we could kind of give the AI more context. Because a lot of times you want somebody that knows your specific situation. Why can't my customer access this trip? Why can't I get this email? Why isn't this automation running? And so we started to explore ways that we can empower this help bot to have a limited amount, but enough to be helpful of information about kind of your system so that it could provide much more personalized kind of support 24/7, 365 without kind of sacrificing security and kind of data management. So got, again, some really cool proofs of concept on that, something that we're going to continue to work on. Like we said, we're continuing to invest in support and human training, but we also want to make sure that you can get a question regardless of where you are in the world, ideally at any time. So that was fun. And maybe kind of zooming out from the hackathon, just a really fun week with the team. So I thought maybe we kind of wrap up with like interesting takeaways, like highlights. And I don't know, Brad, you want to kick that off?
Sure. Yeah, I'm also hearing you say, "Oh, the robots don't take vacation." It's like, for now, just you wait. You're gonna regret saying that. They're gonna shun you. Yeah,
Our overlords, future overlords, are not gonna be.
I was blown away by how incredible the retreat was. I think both like getting to meet people who I've like worked with for a few weeks or months, like actually get to like talk to them as a human in real life over dinner, just like helped build out. This sounds so ridiculous. Like build them out as a person in my own head. Like people join the team in week 1. It's like, all right, we got a webinar. Like here's the stuff we got to get done. Let's get moving. And it's just so easy to get like caught up in the work and doing the work that like some of the human aspects get lost. And so to just have time where it's like you're sitting across the table from somebody just chatting, I think it's really good to like build those relationships and foundations that like when we go back to being really in the weeds and like spending time cranking for a webinar, like you have that basic level of like relationship and trust that just is gonna like help you get through some of the harder times together. So that was great. That was definitely like my highlight. And then also the guest speakers we had, and I think can we share who they were?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I think like we had Jen Lee come and talk to the team, and I was like, oh, we're gonna have some speakers who are like presenting to us about the travel industry, and instead it was like, oh, we're just kind of like in a circle chatting, hearing how Jen thinks about the industry, how she thinks about us, and like kind of jazzing us up a little bit to like take ourselves like to give ourselves a little more credit for all the work we're doing. I think it's so easy to focus on the like, oh, we're not doing enough. There's always more feedback, more things. And to hear someone like just talk about how much she's already seen change like from Tern, it feels inspired by Tern, and like inspired me a bit more. And yeah, it was incredible. I had so much more to say, but I know we're running a little long, so I'll hand it over to maybe Molly. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, as usual, whoever goes first out of the two of us just takes everything that the other person was going to say. We share a brain here at Tern. I will say, extra special, me and my husband, Zach, who works here, to have everyone come to Detroit. Like, I know the winter isn't a particular hotspot for Detroit, and we wouldn't have been able to join otherwise because we're so close to my due date. And so it was just like extra special. We, were able to take care of my 1.5-year-old and commute in every day and see the team. And just like plus to everything Brad said about getting to see everyone in person and just have like those conversations over lunch, over dinner, and even just like sit side by side and work together was really, really special. I also thought the support pairing that David's going to talk about was extra cool and a great way to keep our customers supported, but I won't spoil that. I know you're going to give a little insight there.
Yeah, I think maybe there's three things that I took away. It's one of those, it's really hard to kind of put into like words, just like how special the past 4 days were. But I'll start with the kind of support experience. So we're trying to figure out this balance between how do we make sure that we're still showing up for our customers who have questions and are starting to use the product. We have had a surge this month in new people on Tern, which means that we've got a surge of questions on like how do different things work. And so we're like, let's have the whole company do support. And so we basically every day rotated. We had a kind of customer facing person, and then we kind of randomly paired them with engineers, and like collectively we just did support as a company until the queue was cleared. And it was really, really cool, I think, just to have like engineers actually see what is it like to be on support, to see support, like have support be able to see like when they're asking engineers questions, like what are they actually starting to do. And it's been really cool to watch like the impact. We just had Spencer on, right? Like pushing an update so that in our support tool, we can actually like link out to our logging system way faster, which makes it way easier for support to figure out what's actually going on. Like they have just little things that kind of come up that are now being changed. And like, I think it was a really special way to just see what is this job, right? Like not only like Brad said, like how do you connect on the human level, but like how do you actually see what the job is? And so that was really special. the second thing, I'll echo what Brad said around like the guest speakers. Last year we were like a tiny company and like nobody was going to fly to spend like time with us because nobody knew who we were really. And this year to have Jen Lee and Melissa Krueger. Melissa is the CEO of Classic Vacations, one of the largest luxury wholesale company, flying to Detroit to spend time with our team. Like just mind-bogglingly cool to get their perspective on the industry, get their perspective on how can Tern help suppliers. Like Brad said, hearing from Jen Lee, and if you know Jen Lee, you know just the energy and enthusiasm that she brings to everything. Like it was really special, and I think just like kind of surreal that people would do that they would come and be excited to spend that time with us, and just like how impressed they were with the team. I have to give Samantha a shout out, like sending us like a little gift for the whole team was just like, I think, you know, Molly was tearing up. I was tearing up. Like, I mean, just like the note there, that was incredibly special.
Our CTO, Brian, saw me and I was literally about to like weep. And I mean, my hormones don't help, but like he like, what's wrong? And I was like, no, I just got the most special note ever from an advisor.
So special. Yeah. And then I think that the other, which have 4 highlights. I don't know where we've got another meeting to jump to, but like one, we had a bunch of users from Detroit come, and that was also just so fun. It's so cool talking to users, and like, especially I think on the R&D side where we don't see that as often, like that was incredible. So if you're listening to this and you came to that event, thank you. It was a real highlight. And then just the team. Like there's so many moments where I was just like, this is the coolest, most fun, smartest, most performant team I've ever worked on. And I remember like, just a very distinct thing. I don't even remember what was said, but I remember like getting out of the elevator, walking to the hotel room, and we were like, saying goodbye. And I don't remember the last time I laughed that hard. Like I was just like walking to my room, just still laughing by myself. I probably looked like a crazy person. And I was just like one of those moments where like, not only does this team work really hard, not only are they some of the smartest people I've ever worked with, but it's just like fun. It's just really, really fun. And I think that's special. And maybe we will end the last podcast in 2024 there, because I think this is maybe the longest podcast we've had. But last thing I will say is, if you're listening to this, just know that you mean the world to this team. We don't take for granted that you spend 30 minutes to an hour with us every week. And we can't wait to get back to building in 2025 something that is truly transformational for this industry. And we couldn't do that without your support. So thank you. And we will see you all in 2025.
Enjoy your holidays.
Bye.